Hey, this is ndupree from System Security 2, ISA 4220. I'm going to talk a little bit about IMAP and DNS. Uh, so we're going to talk about what is IMAP, what is DNS. At the end, of course, I'm going to put RDM recommendations for each. Talk a little bit about how to install the installation of Dovecot and IMAP. A little bit about IMAP is stands for Internet Message Protocol. The protocol that serves as a way to read mail on a remote host. IMAP is a successor to POP3 and IMAP. Um, it has many advantages over POP3, as we talked in last week's presentation. When you sign into an email client like Microsoft Outlook, it contacts the email server using IMAP. The headers of all your email messages are then displayed. If you have to read a message, it is quickly downloaded to see that you can see it, but emails are not downloaded unless you need to open them. IMAP is better to use than POP3, which is it's a major improvement from POP3 too. Multiple local email clients will all see the same inbox. You can see this by keeping all email on the server. However, with this protocol, the emails live on your server, or you could say that they're stored permanently. You can therefore interact with your messages from any device as long as you have the right login credentials. When a client program, such as Netscape, which is to view a message, IMAP gives it to the text and Netscape shows it to you. IMAP server still controls the message. The email client simply just asks the server to manipulate the folder. Basically, so you're just controlling your inbox or any other folders remotely using IMAP. IMAP is where your emails are all stored. IMAP can store your emails safely on a server. You can access them from anywhere without altering or affecting the original copies. Plus, any changes you make in your email on one device will be transferred to any other device you use. If you do lose connection to the internet, though, you can have a harder time working with your email when using IMAP. Most clients only store some information for each email locally. So, like example, they might save the message itself, but not any attachments or images. A good way to think of IMAP is intermediary between your email client and your email server. Unlike POP3, IMAP allows you to access, organize, read, and sort your email messages without having to download them first. Resulting in IMAP is very fast and efficient. The server also keeps a record of all messages that you send, which allows you to access your sent messages from anywhere. IMAP does not move messages from the server to your computer. Instead, they can synchronize the email that's on your computer with the email that's on your server. Some advantages of IMAP. There's several advantages to use IMAP. It can allow you to access your email messages from anywhere. You can use it in many different devices as you want to. So, it only downloads a message when you click on it, so you do not have to wait for all your new messages to download from the server before you read them. Attachments are not automatically downloaded with IMAP. This allows you to check your messages a lot more quickly. You can have greater control over which attachments are open. And finally, IMAP can be used offline, just like POP3. You can just enjoy the benefits of both protocols in one. Let's talk a little bit how to install Dovecot and IMAP. First, you'll need to secure your email server traffic with the TLS certificate. You can easily obtain a free TLS certificate from Let's Encrypt. Those are the commands you use to install it. If you use an Apache web server, which we do use, you need to install the Apache plugin. having a Apache virtual host for mail your domain.com before obtaining Let's Encrypt TLS certificate is essential. And after that, you have to create the virtual host file. When that's done, you have to save and close the file and make sure you create the web root directory. Uh, Once the web root directory is created, enable the virtual host, and then reload Apache for the changes to take effect. So once the virtual host is created and enabled, run this following command to obtain and install Let's Encrypt TLS certificate, which I provided right here underneath. Um, Make sure you configure postfix, install dovecot IMAP server by the sudo apt install dovecot core, and then configure dovecot. Configure the mailbox location and an authentication mechanism and SSL and TLS encryption. That's how to install dovecot IMAP. Here's some hardening recommendations for IMAP. The main concern with IMAP security is the login process. Protocols allow login over unencrypted connections, transmitting login credentials across the network in clear text. By requiring secure logins on the Exchange server, the credentials are passed over an encrypted connection, which can protect them in transit. You can check the status of your IMAP services in the services.msc console or by running git service in PowerShell. If you don't need to enable IMAP services, then there's obviously no point modifying the IMAP settings to be less secure, but leaving them at default secure settings is a good practice in case someone inadvertently enables one of the services. Most IMAP servers require SSL encryption for messages in both directions, the same level of data encryption used by secure e-commerce web servers. Furthermore, IMAP email systems store all messages, folders, and drafts, but on the server instead of the client's hard drive. IMAP users with stolen or broken equipment can retrieve their entire mailbox and folder structure when connecting to a new or borrowed computer. And small and medium business owners can offer IMAP to end users through a variety of affordable service plans. Many web hosting companies now provide secure IMAP as a part of basic account packages. Let's talk a little bit about DNS. Stands for Domain Name System. Enables you to use hierarchical friendly names to easily locate computers and other resources on an IP network. It's used on the internet to provide a standard naming convention for locating IP-based computers. On the internet, for the implementation of DNS, the use of names to locate resources on TCP/IP networks was supported by a file called hosts. Network administrators enter names and IP addresses into hosts, and computers use the file for name resolution. Both the host and file and DNS use a namespace. And what a namespace is a grouping in which names can be used to symbolically represent another type of information, like IP address, and in which specific rules are established that determine how names can be created and used. Some namespaces, in this case DNS, provide rules that allow for the namespace to be divided into subsets of names for distributing and delegating parts of the namespace. Other namespaces, such as the host namespace, cannot be divided, but it must be distributed in their entirety. Due to this, using the host files posed a problem for network administrators. As the number of computers and users in the internet grew, the task of updating and distributing the host file became unmanageable. DNS replaced the host file with a distributed database, which implements a hierarchical naming system. This naming system allows for growth on the internet and the creation of names that are unique throughout the internet and private TCP/IP based So now we're going to take a look at DNS concepts. The DNS concepts that I have are servers, resolvers, records, zones, and zone files. DNS servers store information about node zones, one zone, or multiple zones. When a DNS server receives a DNS query, it attempts to locate the requested information by retrieving data from its local zones. But if this fails due to the server, it is not authoritative for the DNS domain requested, and this does not have the data for the requested domain, so the server can check its cache, communicate with other DNS servers to resolve the request, or refer the client to another DNS server that might know the answer. Resolvers are programs that use DNS queries to query for information from servers. Resolvers can communicate with either remote DNS servers or the DNS server program running on the local computer. Resolvers are usually built into utility programs, or they're accessible through library functions. Resolver can run on any computer, including a DNS server. Records are a set of information in the DNS database that can be used to process client queries. Each DNS server contains the resource records it needs to answer queries about the portion of the DNS namespace for which it's authoritative. A DNS server is authoritative for a contiguous portion of the DNS namespace if it contains information about the portion of the namespace. Zones is just a portion of the DNS namespace. It contains a series of records stored on the DNS server, but each zone is anchored at a specific domain node, but zones are not domains. A zone file are files that contain resource records for the zones of which the server is authoritative. In most DNS implementations, zones are implemented as files. Hardening recommendations for DNS is use DNS forwarders. A DNS forwarder is just a DNS server that performs DNS queries on behalf of another DNS server. The reason to use a DNS forwarder are to have to offload processing duties from the DNS server, forwarding the query to the forwarder, and also to benefit from the potentially larger DNS cache on the DNS forwarder. Using cache-only DNS servers, one that is not authoritative for any DNS domains, it's configured to perform recursion or use a forwarder. When the caching-only DNS server receives a response, caches the result and returns the answer to the system issuing the DNS query to the caching-only DNS server. Over time, caching-only DNS server can amass a large cache of DNS responses, which can significantly improve DNS response times for DNS clients of that caching-only DNS server. Using DNS resolvers is a good recommendation. They can perform recursion to resolve names for domains for which that DNS server is not authoritative. An example would be you have a DNS server on your internal network that's authoritative for your internal network domain. When a client on your network uses that DNS server to resolve the name, like techrepublic.com, that DNS server performs recursion by querying other DNS servers to get the answer. Want to protect DNS from cache pollution? DNS cache pollution is an increasingly common problem. Most DNS servers are able to cache the result of DNS queries before forwarding the response to the host issuing the query. A DNS cache can significantly improve DNS query performance throughout your organization. The problem is that if the DNS server cache is polluted with bogus DNS entries, users can subsequently be forwarded to malicious websites instead of the sites that intended to visit. Enable DDNS for secure connections only. Many DNS servers accept dynamic updates. The dynamic update feature enables these DNS servers to register DNS host names and IP addresses for hosts that use DHCP for host IP addresses. DDNS can be great in reducing the administrative overhead for DNS. administrators who otherwise would need to manually configure DNS resource records for these hosts. Want to disable zone transfers. And then you want to set access controls on DNS registry entries and set access controls on DNS file system entries. But that's all I have today for IMAP and DNS. Thank you for watching my presentation. And here are my sources for my information. Thank you.